As someone who's been in the fitness industry for over 6 years, macro tracking has always been a part of my journey. And since I've seen such great results, I recommend and encourage all of you to do the same. But don't just count calories, count your macros. With the right balance of macros, you can optimize your weight, body composition, performance, and health. So if this is your first time learning about macronutrients, I'm going to make it as easy as possible to understand. By the end of this guide, you'll have a step-by-step process to follow to feel confident tracking your macros regardless of your fitness journey. As always, if you're interested in learning more about macro tracking, head over to Google and type in 𝗖𝗂𝘂𝗧 plus how to track your macros. There you'll find the full article on today's topic, which goes a little bit more into depth. Let's now dive deep into how to track your macros. Let's first start off with who I recommend should and shouldn't track their macros. Tracking macros is a great approach for people who are ready to handle the complexity of weighing and measuring everything they eat. Tracking macros is very hands-on and can be very time-consuming initially, so it's best for those who are willing to put in the work and learn as they go. On the other hand, tracking macros is not recommended for individuals with a history of disordered eating or a poor relationship with food. Also, anyone with obsessive and/or compulsive tendencies may find that the amount of detail and emphasis on numbers in macro tracking can make these tendencies even worse. We even consulted with Dr. Mark Morris, a nutrition scientist. Additionally, tracking macros shouldn't be the first step for those who are just starting to learn about nutrition. There are key skills that need to be mastered before diving headfirst into tracking. Learning how to shop for, prep, and cook lean protein sources, whole grains and starchy vegetables, and fruit are key skills to get in place before adding a layer of complexity with tracking macros. I recommend having these basic building blocks in place first. Otherwise, tracking macros can become just about the quality of food in the diet rather than the quality. Now, for example, when I first started out tracking macros, I wasn't the best. So before we get into these 7-step processes, just remember, practice is gonna make perfect. Don't give up and just keep going. We're now gonna go onto the 7-step process. Step number 1, select a tracking app. You'll want to select a tracking app that focuses on macronutrients rather than just calories like I mentioned, and has a reliable database of foods so that you know the information is very accurate. My number 1 recommendation for a macro tracking app is MacroFactor, which is the best for individuals without a coach. We've also done a video on this app, and that video will be down in the description box for you to watch after this. MacroFactor is the most customizable tracker on the market. It constantly adapts to your metabolism and is easy to use, and it's upgraded regularly as new scientific evidence or suggestions are presented to you. The most important thing here is that as you input and track your food, enter your body weight, and customize your goals, the app will provide you scientific-based recommendations on how to adjust your macros over time. These are the reasons why MacroFactor is the number 1 app to use without a coach. Step number 2, get a digital food scale. To track your intake more accurately, you'll need to know exactly how much you're eating and drinking. The best way to do that is to use a digital food scale to weigh your food. Weighing food in grams or ounces is generally more reliable than using a measuring cup, but you'll want to get your measuring cups and spoons too. Step number 3, track what you normally eat and drink. Before you even start trying to hit macro targets, begin by learning how to record what you normally eat and drink. Most nutrition apps allow you to search for foods or use a barcode scanner so that you can easily get the nutrition information for packaged food. Now, personally, I love this feature. When you're using a barcode, all you have to do is point the phone to the barcode and it's automatically going to populate exactly what you're eating. When tracking packaged foods, pay attention to the serving size on the package and use your food scale to measure your actual portion size. You don't have to adhere to the serving size listed on the label, but you will use that for reference when logging your intake. For example, if the stated serving size is 30 grams and your serving is 45 grams, you will log 1.5 servings. For foods that do not have a nutrition label, like many fruits and vegetables that you're going to come across eating, measure your serving and then type the food name in the search box on the app. As an example, if I had 150 grams of apple slices, I would search for apple and input my serving of 150 grams. Make sure you get in the habit of tracking everything you eat and drink, and wait until you have at least 1 to 2 weeks of consistent data before you try to make any changes. It's hard to get where you want to go if you don't know where you are starting. Step number 4, evaluate your calorie intake. Once you have 1 to 2 weeks of consistent data uploaded in your device, then you are able to evaluate your trends and use that information to determine how to make changes to get to your goal. First, you'll want to evaluate how many calories you've averaged and how this calorie intake has affected your body weight. If your current calorie intake doesn't align with your goal, then you'll want to adjust your intake by up or down by 10 to 20%. Let's say your average intake totals 2,000 calories, for instance. If you've been maintaining or gaining weight at that 2,000 calorie mark and you want to lose weight, then you'll need to pick a target that is lower by 10 to 20%. In that case, 1,600 to 1,800 calories. On the other hand, if you've been maintaining or losing weight at 2,000 calories and you want to gain weight, then you'll need to pick up a target that is higher by 10 to 20%. In that case, 22 to 2,400. Step 5, set your macro targets. Once you've adjusted your calorie intake to reflect your goals, you can start calculating your macronutrient targets. Let's start off with protein. My recommendation is 30% of your calories from protein. At 2,000 calories, this would be 600 calories, which is 150 grams of protein, since each gram provides 4 calories. Next, carbs. My recommendation is 40% of your calories from carbohydrates. At 2,000 calories, this would be 800 calories, which is 200 grams of carbohydrates, since each gram provides 4 calories. Fats. The remaining calories, 30%, come from fats. At 2,000 calories, this would be 600 calories, which is 67 grams of fat. Each gram of fat provides 9 calories. Take your time to make moderate changes to your intake until you reach your desired macronutrient targets. Then get at least 1 to 2 weeks of hitting your targets. Step 6, measure the outputs. When you've been able to hit your desired target for at least 1 to 2 weeks, you'll want to compare this input data, calories and macronutrients you've been putting into your body, to the output data that shows what your body has been responding to the change in calories and macros. Consider the following measures. Weight. Try to weigh yourself daily at the same time in the same conditions. Example, first thing in the morning naked. The daily numbers will fluctuate, but you can use them to calculate a weekly average weight. Sum of the 7 days divided by 7 and compare the weekly averages weights over time. Body fat percentage. While most devices other than a DEXA aren't very accurate, they can give you at least an idea of trends over time and a very good ballpark. Many smart scales will record an estimate for body fat along with weight during your daily weigh-ins. Measurements. Take key circumference measurements such as your chest, waist, and hip at a minimum every 1 to 2 weeks. Performance. How are your workouts going? Keep a log to see if weights lifted are increasing, either in the number of reps or amount lifted, and whether running and cardio workouts are getting faster or easier for you. Mood and energy. Keep notes on your mood and energy. If your goal is to lose weight, you might be seeing a lower number on the scales. But if you're miserable and have no energy whatsoever, it could be a sign that your calorie intake is far too low. You can record these 5 indicators in a notebook or a spreadsheet, whatever is easiest for you. For me personally, I like using Excel spreadsheet just because I'm not going to be able to make a mistake. It's easy to input and I can refer to it on my phone or laptop at any time of the day, wherever I am. Step 7, assess and adjust. Based on the outputs as I described in step 6, compared to your goals, you can use this information to assess your progress and adjust your macros as necessary. This is outcome-based decision making, which is the most accurate way to adjust your intake. Although online macro calculators can come in handy, your own body is the best measuring device to let you know what is working and what is not working. Lastly, I'd like to get in a few tips that I recommend that have worked for me that I can share with you. Tip number 1, track everything. Tip number 2, be consistent. Tip number 3, guessing is better than nothing. Tip number 4, know your single macro foods. And the last tip, tip number 5, let go of perfection. Speaking of letting go of perfection, my co-host Janine is actually coming out with a video next week on how to count calories without being obsessed. So make sure you guys subscribe to see that video coming up. In terms of my upcoming reviews, my next video will be on the best unflavored protein powders. So stay tuned for that one. And if it's already up by the time you're watching this, I'll make sure to plug it down in the description box below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.